Tash. I'm from Fall in the Guard, and I'm with actress Caroline Munro. It's a real pleasure to have you, Caroline.
Oh.
Have you been to Belfast before?
First time in Belfast.
And how are you finding it?
I find it wonderful. I think the people, first of all, it's the people, it's the warmth of the people and the friendliness.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they come up and they talk to you and you feel right at home.
It makes up for the bad weather, doesn't it? It's very
The
cold.
weather is very similar to England, to London. And the architecture is amazing. Some of the buildings absolutely beautiful. I like the way they blended the old and the, you know, the blend is good, the mix.
Oh, that's good.
And we're staying, I think we're staying near, right near the City Hall. So it's lovely. It's a walking city, isn't it?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. It's quite small, but it's...
it's wonderful.
We're glad you're
I'm liking it very much.
Now, the reason you're here is for Heroes and Legends.
Yes.
The fans have been in and out the last few days, thousands of them. I'm a huge fan of yours. You've been in the Hammer films.
I have.
You've been in Sinbad.
Golden Voyage,
Sinbad. But my most favourite film, probably nearly of all time, is The Spy Who Loved Me.
You liked it?
Just a little bit.
I liked it.
Just a little bit. But
nice.
yeah, but we'll get on to that in a minute.
Okay.
First of all, how did you get into acting when you were younger?
Wasn't my dream, you know. I didn't think, oh, that was my ambition. If I had any ambition, it was to do art, you know, art. So I went to art school in Brighton, over in England, Brighton by the sea, and I thought that was what I was going to do. But I didn't have the qualifications that it took to go on and be a full-time art student. So a chap was taking photographs. I was young, I was 16, and he said, could he take a few photographs, which he did. And then the photographs were taken to a photographer, David Bailey, who was kind of very, very iconic in the 60s, and it went on to win a competition, the photograph he took, and it set me on my road to modelling. So I started modelling before acting.
Okay, and how did you come from your modelling then?
I suppose I had an agent, a modelling agent, and the original Casino Royale, so you're going back a long way, they were looking for extras for young girls, and I was chosen for one of the extras. So my first kind of entrance into film, my introduction for me, was sitting on the set watching Woody Allen and David Niven and these amazing people.
And it was a Bond film, although slightly different, but
spoofy, but very different and very of the time. You know, it was very 60s when you look back and see it. And I had no part. I was an extra.
And what was it like to be there on this?
To actually sit on the set. It became my love affair with film, I think. I sat on the set and I would watch these people and look at the lighting and watch them perform and watch these amazing directors. And I thought, yes, I think, you know, if there's a chance, then that's what I'd like to try. And then later, again, I was modelling quite a bit. I did quite a big campaign in England for Lamb's Navy Rum, dark rum, which I did for 12 years. And my first proper film was a Western for Paramount Films.
Okay.
I had a screen test for that, and I was opposite Richard Widmark. Richard Widmark, Topol.
Yes.
Caesar Romero.
Oh,
the Joker.
Batman, yeah.
So kind of culty.
Yeah.
And I played a Mexican-American, Richard Widmark's daughter, in a film called A Talent for Loving. So that was my first, you know, and I was with big people.
Big stars there.
Big stars. No experience, you know, but I went in at the deep end. But my first sort of turning point for the pure love of acting was with Christopher Lee. Can't say it was when he bit my neck, but it was the actual, you know, belief I got from doing the acting in Dracula AD 72.
And with regard to those films, the Hammer films,
yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, you were the only person to get a contract. Am I right with regard to
myself and apparently Shane Bryan.
Right. Okay.
We both had a contract, but sadly it was the end of the Hammer period. So
tail end.
Tail end. I did 2 films. I did Dracula AD and Captain Cronus.
Yeah.
So those were the 2 I did.
And do you find after all these years that people still big interest in the Hammer movies?
Especially, they do, especially in the States. I
right?
do shows in the States, and they've become quite sort of culty films in the States, especially Cronus.
Yeah.
It's coming out on Blu-ray, I think, very soon. It's a good film. It was directed by Brian Clements, who was the screenwriter for Golden Voyage of Sinbad and New Avengers. So he was the one who kind of lobbied for me to do Sinbad.
And with regard to Sinbad, I mean, that whole experience, I mean, it's another cult movie.
What a beautiful film. It's a family film, and it was so special. I mean, it's interesting because we did Cronus with Brian Clements was directing, and he kept saying to Ray Harryhausen and Charles Schneer, the producer, that I think she'd be right for Sinbad, myself. And they said, no, we want some, we want a big American name, we want maybe Raquel Welch or somebody known.
Yes.
And he said, I think she's right. I think we should maybe just see. This is so he told me,
Yeah.
It's really weird speaking about yourself. Anyway, strange. But anyway, so they went to see some of the footage, and I got the part of Mariana in Sinbad.
I'm glad you say that because I cannot pronounce names, so yeah.
Most people say Margiana.
I was going to say
That's how it's
I'm
spelled.
glad you say
That's
that,
fine.
yeah. And Ray Harryhausen, we're following there, we're big fans. I mean, was he on set much? Did you meet him?
He was on set the whole time, and when he did his effect, he put his dynamic stop motion.
Yeah.
Obviously, afterwards, he would direct those scenes. So we'd have Gordon Hester for the dialogue scenes, and then Ray would step in and do the effect scenes because, of course, there was nothing there.
Was that strange? With nothing there? This was like a theatre,
Yes,
is it?
in a way it is, but in a way it isn't. Because if you remember being a child and playing as a child, I was an only child, so I used to play a lot by myself. So you use your imagination. So Ray would show us these extraordinary drawings that he'd done, these wonderful artists, and say, now this is going to be this 16-foot centaur, Caroline. He has one eye, he's massive and he's coming towards you. And therefore, we would see the picture, the drawings that he'd done, and then when it would be coming to shoot the scene, he would have a great big tall stick with maybe a photograph or a drawing of the centaur up the top. So that would be your eye line, so you'd follow your eye line, and then he'd direct the scene.
Yeah.
So it was fascinating. And then, of course, a year later, it took him a year to put it all together, then you would see the finished product.
And what did you think when you seen that finished
I thought it was amazing. It suddenly came to life, and the creature was there, and the belief. That's the only thing you had to get from yourself was the belief that you were going to, that's what you were up against. And John Philip Law was our Sinbad, and he was extraordinary. And of course, Tom Baker was our baddie in that.
That's right.
So that was wonderful.
And again, all these years later, people still...
Oh, I love Tom Baker. It's the film that they...
Yeah.
It's a magical film. They tend to show it at Christmas and Easter, and it's a very special film.
And even the effects artists today, a lot of them still credit Ray's work.
Well, we were... Ray got a BAFTA 2 years ago, and I was asked to attend. And do you know who was there? It was amazing. It was thrilling. It was. We went up and we did a little talk about Ray, and it was what's his name? John Landis was the MC.
Okay.
So and Ray was sitting in the audience, and then you had the most amazing special effects people. You had Rick Baker. You had Randy Hooks. Yes, and you had Steven Spielberg, you had Tim Burton, you had all these people talking and praising Ray, saying that if it hadn't been for him, they would not be doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
And in the end, there was a surprise guest, and it was Peter Jackson. He was so sweet.
Is that right?
He came through, and Ray's face, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
And they showed clips of Peter Jackson's first little films emulating Ray, and Peter was about 12 when he started off with the plasticine models, and he put it on camera, and it was just amazing to see that. And then look at his work now. Yeah, very special.
Now, I've been trying to get on to this topic. James Bond.
I thought you might.
First of all, is this true? I didn't know this until a few days ago. Did Did you have the opportunity to play Ursa in Superman?
I did.
But you chose James Bond. Is this right or wrong?
No, it's right. It's right. I was offered the part of Ursa, but my then agent, sadly died, I said, well, what do you think? You know, they came about at the same time, exactly the same time. And he said, well, we know about Bond. Superman is something new. So he said, I think I'd go for Bond. So I did.
Now, the Bond role, the role that you play is very iconic for Bond fans, but I mean, is there any regrets there with regard to not doing Superman? Because Superman was so huge.
I mean, she was amazing.
Yes,
Sarah Douglas was fabulous. She was right. I mean, I would have done it differently if it had been me.
Yeah.
But she was amazing, and it worked so well with Terence Stamp and the other gentleman. You know, it worked really well, the three of them. So I think the casting was right, perfect for her.
Did you get into any sort of talks with regard to Superman, or was it just
not really
through your agent?
It was through the agent. They said, well, you know, we think we'd like to consider Caroline, and do you think she'd be interested? And he initially said, yes, of course, you know, it'd be something wonderful. But as it happened, I'm so pleased Bond was the one.
So
it was small.
So am I.
But it's kind of it's a wonderful legacy, and
absolutely.
And Barbara Broccoli has taken on her father's mantle, as it were, and she's doing an amazing job, I think.
And who did you first meet then? Was it Cubby Broccoli? Or?
I met Cubby. I didn't do a screen test. You know, he'd seen some of my work, and it was kind of a given. He said, "Yes, I'd absolutely like you for this." So how lucky was I?
That's quite a good part, because I think you're one of the few female films to actually be killed by James Bond, if I'm correct.
I believe I was the first one, if not the only one, to be actually killed. But I always think, if I look back at the clip, and I tend not to watch my stuff, I always think it was Barbara that pushed the button and not Roger. He's too much of a gentleman.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Isn't he?
Yeah, it's all without it.
Really, if you think about it.
And with regard to working, Roger Moore's my favourite Bond. I know everyone says Sean. Thank you very much.
Yes,
everyone says Sean Connery, but I think personally Roger is the best. He's the wit, the charm, and
very Indian, very
art.
Englishman
and so forth.
He was my Bond, obviously. So
he's definitely the best. But what was he like to work with?
Fabulous to work with. A very everybody says very generous. He was totally generous, very funny, and slightly risque, slightly naughty before you do a take with the crew. But it relaxed the crew, therefore you felt relaxed, and it became more natural. You know, more the acting. I think he had a good way with the crew. I loved working with him.
And with regard to his cheeky one-liners and so forth, when he stepped off the boat and he says such fine lines and so forth. I mean, a lot of women would take offence for that when they're watching it, but for yourself, more now, but I mean, during those days, I mean, did that bother you, or was?
Not particularly, because it was Bond, wasn't it? I mean, they had to get some lines in, and that kind of made sense. And also, my character Naomi didn't hear him say that, so she wouldn't have been aware of that.
Yes, it's more to Barbara.
Yes, it was to Barbara. So, you know, maybe if my character had heard it, she might not have. She did try to kill him after all, later.
She's definitely one.
She was one of the ones that didn't sleep with him. Well, she didn't.
No, she did wink at him in the helicopter.
She gave him a wink.
Yes,
a wink and a promise, maybe, but nothing. I don't know.
Okay. Well, Caroline, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it. We hope that you enjoy the rest of your stay in Belfast.
I so will.
We'd love to see you again.
Thank you very much. I'd love to come back. It's a brilliant show too. Highly recommend.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate. Bye.